Government really does not appear to have any ideas.
The Honourable Tony Ryle.
Mr Speaker, the John Key-led National Government remains intently focused on the things that really matter to New Zealanders, and that is building a strong, growing economy that can deliver the prosperity that New Zealanders want. The government is working tirelessly, building the momentum that we can put behind the last 4 years of difficult economic times in order to help New Zealand into the future and to give those opportunities that we're looking for all our families and for all our communities. But the one thing I can tell you, Mr Speaker, that is not the answer to the significant challenges facing New Zealand is printing money. The last thing an economy like New Zealand, small, vulnerable, dependent on international trade flows, the last thing this country needs is printing money. Yet that is the only economic solution offered by the opposition parties in 4 years, is printing more money. Oh, sorry, there was a second one, a capital gains tax on your family home. So that's what the solution is, a capital gains tax on your family home plus printing money. Neither of those are a recipe for getting the country moving. Neither of those are a recipe for a country moving back into surplus and paying our nation's debt. And that is why every day, day in, day out, our government is talking about what really matters to New Zealanders, and that is building the economy, investing for the future, investing in infrastructure, investing in important social services. Those are the things that will help this country get ahead. We've been sensibly managing our nation's finance, but every time the government takes a decision to help balance the books, to get us back in the black so that we can start paying off that debt and not burdening our children, the opposition opposes it. Every time we ask the public service to tighten its belt, focus on value for money, we're told that's wrong, just turn the printing presses on. Printing presses are the solution to everything. But our government is very sensibly turning around the financial crisis that we inherited from the previous government, where they had a decade of deficits facing our nation. We're working to be balanced by 14-15. It's a huge effort, but we can continue to do that, and we both know that the Treasury's economic updates and the Reserve Bank monetary statements are looking at this average 2.5% growth over the next few years. We should be working harder to increase that, but it does mean that New Zealand will be growing faster than many of the European countries, the United Kingdom, Japan and Canada. We're continuing to focus as a government on building a more productive economy in New Zealand. Huge investment going into infrastructure in this country. Over $400 million going into the Eastern Arterial roading route in the Bay of Plenty. This will save significant amount of time as our logs and exports go to the port of Tauranga, the biggest export port in New Zealand. Huge amount of investment going into the Waikato Expressway. That's linking those two hubs of economic development in the Waikato and in Auckland. A really significant investment going into roading right throughout the country. It matters because it means that goods can get to the port and to market faster, but it's opposed by every party opposite is against the investment in roading. And what's more, the opposition now wants to use the roading money to pay for building houses. So the motorists are paying for roads, but the opposition parties are going to spend that money on building housing. We're also investing in our human capital in New Zealand, boosting skills and the opportunity for job training. Tremendous announcement by the Prime Minister on youth apprenticeships in New Zealand. A tremendous announcement that will see the first 10,000 new apprentices enrolling after the 1st of April this year getting $1,000 towards their tools and off-job course costs, and $2,000 if they're in those priority construction trades that we so desperately need for the recovery happening in Christchurch. So there's been a huge amount of money go into these areas. Just in the last few years, $64 million extra into industry training across New Zealand. That is really significant, and it's making a big investment. But the government's also very strongly focused on better public services, delivering for New Zealanders. And if you just look at what's been happening in the health portfolio, our government has continued to invest very strongly in health, $2 billion extra put into the health service, more doctors, more nurses than ever before, more operations, now at a record level, over 30,000 patients a year getting elective surgery, more than before. They are waiting less. But the one policy we've got from Labor on health is an elective surgery, where they have announced they will cut the numbers of hips, cataracts and knee operations and make people wait longer. That is the only health policy cutting hip... Oh, rubbish. Read what Marion Street has said. She will cut elective surgery. That means fewer hips, fewer cataracts. In fact, their plan will see, I think, around about 5,000 fewer operations a year for people over the age of 65. So Labor is cutting hips, cutting cataracts, cutting joint knee replacements and making old people wait longer. So that's their plan. It's the only policy they've announced in health. Our side, though, we've got this comprehensive plan about a real investment in health promotion, disease prevention through our 6 national health targets, record levels of immunisation, no gap between Maori Pacific Pākehā New Zealanders. We're making huge gains in diabetes and heart checks. We've introduced a systematic national program to have diabetes and heart checks for people once they reach a certain age. And we've got a huge effort on fighting in tobacco, unparalleled effort in fighting tobacco, but we're speeding up cancer services, emergency departments are faster, saving lives through that, so we're delivering better public services with the investment that's been made. In education, a huge investment being made in lifting standards not only in early childhood education but also in NCEA too. A huge investment going into that. Our goal is to see 98% of all school entrants having participated in ECE and 85% of 18-year-olds having achieved NCEA. So we've got more teachers than ever before. We've got more and more investment going into the capital of our schools, new buildings, new equipment. We're renovating and rebuilding a whole lot of schools that suffered under the leaky homes investment and debacle that happened under the previous Labor government. So we've got a huge investment going into education to lift standards so that that 1 in 5 New Zealand child who leaves school unable to read or write well enough to get a job isn't in that position anymore. And yes, it is demanding in education. And yes, the government does have a zero-tolerance approach to failure, and we do want them to do better in our schools, and the government is going to continue doing that. We're delivering safer streets for New Zealanders. The lowest crime rates in 30 years. Lowest crime rates in 30 years. More police on the beat. More police on the beat. A significant lift in the number of on-the-beat police walks that there's ever been. So a real investment going there. In welfare, we're getting the incentives right to encourage people into work, to give them the support that they need to be independent. So there's a huge amount of work that we're doing. But the government also has a very, very focused plan that the Prime Minister talked about in this statement that continues to focus on the things that really matter to ordinary New Zealanders. A strong, growing economy. The changes we're making in Resource Management Act, the changes we're making in local government, the changes that will come out of the housing work that's underway, the changes that are happening elsewhere in the economy, in water, the changes in agriculture, the changes in Crown Mineral, opposed by the parties opposite. Though I have to say, didn't Mr Norman give a speech last year saying the Greens welcomed mining? So it's all very odd. There's a lack of coherence there. So the government's got a huge investment of work into the things that really matter that will get the economy moving. So the next year is going to be characterised by, nasty politics from the parties opposite. Nasty politics, focusing on sideshows and irrelevancies. But our government will remain absolutely determined and absolutely focused on what makes the boat go faster, what makes the economy go faster, what provides the opportunities New Zealanders want. And you will see, Mr. Speaker, over this next year or so, really significant lifts in Christchurch. We're beginning to see the economy moving elsewhere around New Zealand very strongly. We're expecting to grow faster than so many of our trading partners, but it will remain challenging. The economy will remain challenging. Printing money is not the answer. A more productive, a strong, growing economy is the answer to the opportunities that New Zealanders want, and that is what John Key and his team are strongly focused on.
Honourable Damien O'Connor.